putting it under a weight, waiting for it to cool down. By the time you get through your stack, the others will be cool and ready to go. One more here. And I'm going to teach you then how to fold your flower or your petal or your sculpted petal. Okay, so you get the gist of that. The next step is to take your board. Now, do you have to have this board? No. You could use a wire frame from the dollar store with the center in it that people put plastic canvas in. I used to use those, but I think for about the last 2 years I've been making my own. I just think they're so much simpler to use. I'm not struggling to get between any wires or around anything. I just simply put my zip tie through a set of holes, and it doesn't matter where you start, just pick 2 holes, put it down through one, bring it up through the other one. And I like to preload it, meaning before I fold my petal, I've already got my zip tie in there. Okay, so we're going to take the petal that you created. Here's our vein. Okay, it's nice and rigid and thick. That's what we're looking for, so that it holds that. What I'm going to do is take the palm of my opposite hand and put it at that glued edge, and then straddle that vein with my 2 fingers. And I sort of spread out the fingers because what it does is it makes a fuller leaf or a fuller petal. And all I'm going to do is just come across and pleat that bottom edge the whole way. And then there's a little tab left over. I just fold that to the back. And I created my very first sculpted leaf. I'm going to bring it over to my board, lay it on there, and pull the zip tie as tightly as I can get it to secure that. Use my my wire cutters, and clip that off. And then I'm going to preload the next zip tie so that it's ready to go. On this particular board, this is a 10.5, which makes about a 23-inch round wreath, or 23-inch wreath, a cross wreath. I'm going to skip a hole and come to the next 2 holes. Put in my zip tie, preload it, getting ready to go. Take my next leaf petal. There is my glued edge, that tip. Put the palm of my hand over it, straddle that vein with my 2 fingers, and I'm going to pleat across the bottom. Just gather it up, pick it up, pull that tab to the back. You now have created your second sculpted leaf. I think they're so pretty looking. It just really adds a layer of dimension, something different. I tend to not like to do what everybody else is doing. I want to come up with my own things. I really like the look of these, and I think they're pretty in lots of different colors. I also have started a different type of board with leaves, and I will be doing a video on that. For the fall or Christmas, I think would be beautiful. So we're into the next one. We're going to skip a hole, put the zip tie down through one hole, up through the other. There is my glued edge. I'm going to straddle it, that vein, with my 2 fingers. Open up your fingers, keep them nice and wide to help your petal be wide. You're going to pleat across the bottom. You get to the back, fold that extra tab behind, bring it over, put it on your board. Tighten it down. Okay, so this takes, doing that, skipping a hole, going into every, the second set of holes, every other one, it takes 11 leaves on this 10.5-inch board. I started it yesterday so that, again, the video wouldn't be too long. So I have all of my back petals in, and what you do for the next row, the second row of holes, there's two choices. I can either use the two holes below a leaf, or I can go between the two leaves to a set of holes and go between. I tend to like to offset it, but you can do either or. So what you're going to do is just pick a set of holes, what you like, okay, either between those two leaves or right under it. Put your zip ties down through and preload it so it's there waiting for your petal. Okay, and it's the same exact fold for the yellow as it was for the green. You're going to look for that glued edge, straddle that with the palm of your hand, spread your fingers out, and you're going to pleat across the bottom. There'll be a little tab that's sticking there. Don't worry about it. We're just going to fold it to the back. Turn it over and you have a sculpted petal. Okay. I'm going to change that because I like to put it between the two petals rather than layering it on top. And again, that's just my personal preference. Okay, so this one is going to go between those two. You're going to tighten it down. If you happen to hear snoring, that is my wiener dog, or dash hound, Sasha. She's in the hallway. She has to be wherever I am. And she happens to snore. Really snore badly. So I don't have any control over it. She's just always there. So we have our first petal in. Now there's another option. On this finished wreath, the version I did was I doubled up on the petals in the back row, meaning I layered one on top of another. And I like it because I think it just makes it look more realistic, more full looking. So you can do that, but you don't have to. It's up to you. It's a personal choice. So if you're going to double up, you're just going to actually put another zip tie in that same set of holes that the first petal was in. There's room, it'll fit. Okay, you just leave it there waiting for your petal to come. So there's my glued edge, straddle that. I'm going to pleat across the bottom. That extra piece, I'm just going to fold it to the back. I've created another petal. I'm layering it on top of the first petal, just to give it a fuller look. And then I'm clipping that edge. Okay. Now you can see I have three double sets. When you add the second set of petals, again, you're going to skip a hole. Skip one hole, like we did for the leaves. You can see there's an open hole between every leaf. We're going to do the same thing for the petals. You're going to skip a hole. You're going to take your zip tie in the next two holes and feed it through. Have it ready and waiting. Get your petal, straddle that vein, pleat across the bottom, fold that tab over, tighten it down. Now on the second row, like I said, I have been doing double rows. I like the thicker look, the fuller look. So that means you have to go in there and put a second zip tie in the same petal holes. So basically, you see there's one zip tie, that's the first petal. I'm layering a second one under that. Okay, taking my creased or my sculpted petal, putting the palm of my hand on the back edge, straddling that vein, pleating it across the bottom, pulling that tab to the back, and setting that in. Okay. Skipping a hole, going to the next two. Really goes quickly. You can make these pretty fast if you sculpt all of your petals. I like to do all the gluing first of the tip, and then I come back and do all the veining for my petals, and then I have everything ready to actually put the wreath together. So it goes pretty quickly. Preload, skipping a hole, going in the next, oops, I'm sorry, I forgot to double up on my petal. Fold that tab over. Layer that on. Preload the next one. Skip a hole. The next two. Now I have to create some more veined petals. Oh, we got a little straggler here. You know what, when you put that matte sealer on it, it really does help with the frame. Alright, so that's my glue tip. We're going to just fold it into that smaller triangle. You're going to put your flat iron on there, hold it briefly, see if it's melting down in there just a bit. You have to sometimes check your iron, because if you let it sit too long, it shuts itself off. So you'd be trying to crimp and nothing's happening, that's why. It's turned itself off. Remember, I'm going to do that a couple times. I'm trying to not hold it too long, because if you do, it'll make that petal kind of funky, out of shape. Put it under a weight to cool. It just helps hold that form, or that shape. Squeeze it, hold it, watch for it to shrink under there a little bit. I also have another video I want to make using this technique, or using this flat iron, is the Christmas tree. I don't know if you've seen it on my Pinterest page. Gotta have that wreath. There is a little Christmas tree that I'll make a video on teaching you how to do that. They're really, really cute. I call it a woodland tree because that's what it reminds me of. So I have that also, and a couple other things. I have some things on the back burner that I've been waiting patiently to get out. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So it's going to take me a little while yet to get everything arranged, but let me tell you, when it comes out, it is just going to absolutely blow your mind what I've been able to create. I think it really is just going to change the wreathing industry, in my opinion. I think it's the next big thing. So I'm really anxious to get it out there. I just have a little bit more work to do before I can get to that point. Getting things set up behind the scenes and ready for its premiere. And it is going to be wonderful. So I'm just creating some more veins in my petals. To finish our wreath. Like I said, I think this is about, it takes about 22 petals to complete it on this size board. I do offer other size boards, so if you want something that's a little smaller or something that's a little larger, I do have them. You just have to contact me through my Facebook page, or even on here on the group page, the Wreath page. Just message me. These go by pretty quickly. I will tell you that I did try to do this with another type of iron. It was a little triangle. I'm not sure what if they use it for pressing, for quilting. I could not get the setting right. I did try it with my bag sealer. Again, I could not get the setting right. That's what's so nice about having this little flat iron and having multiple settings, is that I can pick the setting that works the best. I can dial it up or dial it down just to almost a perfect, where it doesn't melt it so much that it deforms the petal. It's just enough to kind of meld that poly burlap together enough to hold that vein, so that it looks crisp. And I know it's hard for you to see, but I kind of watch it because I don't want it to over melt, because it just will deform the petal too much. So while you're doing them, you're going to be actually looking at that, watching that crease. Excuse me. Watching for that little bit of shrinkage in there. Starts to curl up a little. Move it down the line, squeeze it. I give it that extra squeeze. It seems like it needs that to really start to melt together. You'll see a color change. Gets a little darker. The poly burlap gets a little darker when it's melted. A couple more here. Just go up it 2, 3 times. You kind of just have to start getting